Let's go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zephyr's Adjusted for Risk podcast from the shores of Lake Tahoe. Today I have a very special and fun episode lined up for us. It's going to be a good one. I can guarantee you that. In honor of International Women's Day and Women's History Month, we are holding a very special Women in Investing episode. I have three amazing guests on to talk about their journey into the wealth and investment management space. And we're going to talk about some current trends taking place in the industry. So enough for me. Let's move it on to the stars of the show. But first, today's episode is sponsored by the award-winning Zephyr, which helps investment professionals make more informed investment decisions on behalf of their clients. With that, I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Dana DeOria. Dana is the Group President of Solutions and Co-CIO at Envestnet. And this is Dana's second time on the show, so I'm really glad I didn't scare you away after the first time, Dana. I'd also like to welcome Shana Sissel. Shana is the CEO of Banrion Capital Management. And Shana, unless I screw something up today, is going to be on in a couple of weeks for a fun episode about St. Patrick's Day. And I'd like to give a warm welcome to Bridget Costello. Bridget is a wealth advisor at Kayne Rudnick, who is a first-time guest. And like I said, I would love to have on again in the future. Thank you so much, Dana, Shana, and Bridget for coming on the show. It's a true honor to have you on this special episode. I'm really excited for it. Well, let's just hope I don't say anything stupid or get myself into trouble because I'm clearly outnumbered here. But let's start. Can each one of you just real quickly tell us a little bit more about yourself and your firms? And we'll start with you, Dana.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm the Group President of Solutions and the Co-Chief Investment Officer. Envestnet is a turnkey asset management program and financial ecosystem for wealth managers, right? So the independent insurance, bank, broker-dealer space, as well as registered investment advisors. And, what I do is run the managed accounts, the TAMP, if you will, portion of the platform. So Envestnet provides services such as proposal generation, billing, reporting, all the paperwork that you need, compliance paperwork, et cetera. But we also provide access via our TAMP to hundreds of asset managers and solutions that the advisors using the platform can use. And so that's my area of focus, which is, of course, the investment asset management side of the business.
Fantastic. Shana?
Sure. So it's funny, I have a similar background to Dana. I previously worked at Orion, and when they acquired FTJ Fund Solutions, I was tasked with bringing that TAMP in-house. So I built kind of the foundation for what is now the Orion TAMP. I handled all the due diligence and helped build the models and managed their direct indexing portfolio solutions as well. Went on after that and was working with RIAs, helping them build alternative investment platforms, and learned really quickly that the traditional solutions that RIAs use in that space are woefully inadequate and don't actually center their solutions around the advisor. They center them around the asset manager. So I started Banrion with the knowledge of what the advisor networks like about TAMPs and the solutions that they offer, whether it be Envestnet or Orion or AssetMark or whoever. They like the fact that there's the portfolio management solutions. They like the turnkey aspects of it. They like that the due diligence is done and that they can find ways to find the right products for their clients. So I thought, well, why can't we take that model and apply it to alternative investments and have it be a seamless way for an advisor to use the TAMP solutions for not just traditional investments, but alternatives as well. And focusing again on centering the solution to solve the problems that advisors have. So I launched Banrion in 2022 to do just that. And since then, we've grown tremendously. We continue to bring on new asset manager partners. We have ETF and interval fund model solutions that are all alternative focused. So we're kind of like a TAMP, but we only do alts. That's all we do. And then we handle all the back office solutions with seamless integrations with Tamarack, which is an Envestnet company, as well as Orion, Black Diamond, and Adapar, so that the advisors can have a consolidated view of everything within those tools, as well as we do all the auditing for their billing and their performance reporting, because we know that continues to be a problem that hasn't been solved by the legacy players. So that's what we do, and that's my background. I've been working in the alternative investment space since 2007, and it's something I'm really passionate about. So that's my background.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shana. Bridget, how did, can you tell us a little bit more about your background in Kayne, Anderson, Rudnick?
Yes, thank you, Ryan, for having me on the podcast. I'm a wealth advisor and financial planner at Kayne, Anderson, Rudnick. I have been doing this role for just about 20 years at this point, and I'm in my 10th year at Kayne, Anderson, Rudnick. Kayne was founded 41 years ago as a family office for John and Miriam Anderson, who had accumulated enough wealth to start their own investment firm. And the focus from day one for our firm has been downside protection in tough markets. So in the inevitable recessions and bear markets, our goal is to hang in there better than most other companies. So what Mr. Anderson used to kind of walk the halls of the firm and say is, I'm looking for sleep insurance. And we've had quite a bit of success over the 41 years. You know, we have expanded quite a lot. At this point, the firm manages about $70 billion through multiple different channels. My team focuses in the high net worth family space. A lot of our clients are in Southern California, but the firm manages money for investors really across the globe at this point in time. I spend my days working with mostly women, which I find to be, so rewarding, and providing great financial plans and asset allocation advice, partnering with estate planning attorneys and accountants, and putting together really great financial plans and educating women, and helping them to feel really confident about their financial future.
Fantastic. Bridget, first of all, I love that sleep insurance. Usually I talk about, giving your clients the ability to sleep at night, but sleep insurance, can I steal that one from you guys?
Absolutely.
And also we're going to talk shortly here in a little bit about women. You talked about, your primary clients are women. They're going to control the majority of the assets soon. So good for you already, going in that direction. So Shana, let's start with you real quickly. How did you get into the investment wealth management industry? And, can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So I got into it by accident. My undergraduate degree is in sport management. I really wanted to be a sideline reporter for ESPN. That I worked for the New England Sports Network for a while, and had an offer from the New England Patriots to work in their media relations department with Stacey James, who oddly enough is still the director of media relations at the Patriots, and it's like 30 years later.
Wow.
And so that's what I thought I wanted to do, but it didn't pay very well. And unless I was willing to relocate, because there's typically only a handful of pro sports teams in any major market, you really aren't going to find anything. And at the time I had a serious boyfriend and I didn't want to move. So I ended up taking a job at a staffing agency. And one of our clients was Morgan Stanley. And we kept sending candidates to them for potential opportunities there, and nobody got hired. And my boss was so frustrated. He said, Shana, I'm going to send you in there to do an interview, and maybe you can give me some insight into what those interviews are like so that we can have a better job getting candidates hired. And so I went in and I did the interview, and they offered me a job based on that interview. And they offered me what was so much more money in my mind. I was making like $27,500 at the staffing agency, and they offered me like $37,000. And that was like life-changing money to me. So I ended up taking the job thinking, oh, I'll do this for a little while and then go down, to Connecticut and work for ESPN. But I ended up falling in love with it. So I spent about 3 years at Morgan Stanley before I realized that I didn't really like being a financial advisor. I really liked managing portfolios and talking markets, but I really didn't like the psychology aspect of investing. And I'm sure Bridget can relate to this and probably has her own stories. But as a financial advisor, you are more like a therapist and psychologist than you are an actual money manager. And so that part I didn't really like. So I ended up moving on, getting my MBA and working at Fidelity. And then the rest is kind of history from there.
Shana, you brought up a very good point. And I love these stories about where you started. It's not like you just were born into the wealth management space, investment management space, but I agree. I started working with a financial advisor, and there could have been an avenue for me to take over the practice. Like, this just isn't for me. I just can't do it.
It's God's work. It truly is God's work. I have so much respect for advisors.
Yes.
I actually think as an industry working in alts, that's one of the biggest pet peeves I have is most alternative investment managers, PE, VC, have such disregard for advisors. And if they only knew how hard that job was, I just can't even imagine. And so it's God's work for real.
Yes.
People who do the job are special.
Yeah. So Bridget, since you are a financial advisor and Shana says it's God's work, is it? And how did you get to become into this space?
Yeah, I guess it is God's work. You guys are making me wonder if my job is harder than I think it is. I find it to be extremely rewarding, when I first meet a client, and then know them a year in or 5 years in and just kind of see the progress of their knowledge. I find that to be the most rewarding part of my career. But I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was younger. My dad was a firefighter. I knew I didn't want to do that. And my mom was a single mom, and she was a banker, and I got to work for her for a couple of years when I was in college in the summer. And I just remember being in awe of her, like the person that she was in this professional setting. She wore beautiful clothes, and she had an office, and she was so well respected. And she has always been very, very good at solving problems, thinking outside of the box. And I watched her help a lot of people. Her career kind of progressed from doing mortgages to commercial lending. And she has relationships that have spanned decades because of this. Every year at Christmas, we'll have the mom and pop ice cream shop like drop off food for our family because she's helped them get loans over the years. And they love her. And I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to really help people, but it definitely wasn't banking. It wasn't lending for me. I didn't really know what it was. So I got a business degree, and I went to work for an accounting firm right out of college. And after my first tax season there, I realized that definitely wasn't for me either. So what was it that I could do? I just really love like a good American business story. So the stock market to me is so interesting. I want to know why we're investing in these companies and what makes them different. And a lot of times for us, it's the people that work at the firms, right? We're investing because the people that are managing these firms are amazing, and nobody else can do what they do. And so talking about that day in and day out with clients, why we're investing in different businesses, how we find them allows me to educate people, but also talk about something that's interesting to me. If I've got to go to work for 50 hours a week, I really wanted it to be doing something that was interesting to me. And this industry is dynamic. Every day is totally different. Every week I get a new problem from a client that I need to come up with a new solution for. And particularly this year, we're getting lots of new things out there in the universe. And so I'm always, doing research and coming up with new ideas, and lots of hand-holding, as Shana mentioned earlier, with clients through times like this. But I find it all very rewarding, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Fantastic. I love it, Bridget. Dana, how did you get started in the industry?
It's funny. I feel like we covered this, Ryan, on my last one, and so I feel almost repetitive if they listen to the last one. But I'll give it a go again, and who would remember it anyway? But so yeah, I got into the industry honestly, intentionally. So I mean, in college I did English and international studies, and I really viewed myself more as a liberal arts person. And so I came out of that as a reporter on a newspaper. And I did that for several years. And I ended up on the business desk, got very interested in investing, kind of felt like I had missed a trick. Frankly, you don't make any money in newspapers. And, it's, I would do these stories, I remember, and sort of like, 3 stories a day, and a kind of question, am I adding a ton of value, like shooting off these stories to interviewing a few people. So I decided to go back to school, get the MBA, and focus more on business where I hadn't before. So I had a finance concentration there. And basically I use that to facilitate a move. You're able to network once you're in that ecosystem, and then facilitate a move into the industry.
Fantastic. So Bridget, along the way, you had a great role model in your mom. Did you encounter any hurdles or obstacles along the way into your current role?
I would say in every area of my life, myself is probably my greatest hurdle. I think, I was quite young when I started in this industry, and I suffered from a lot of imposter syndrome, like wondering in this male dominated industry, like, do I know as much as these older men do? Even though I had done, I did the certified financial planning designation, and had definitely had the education to go out, but I lacked the confidence at first. I felt really insecure. And I had to overcome it. If I wanted to be successful in this industry, I had to find a way to be confident. And for me, finding people that would give me constructive criticism and really being able to sit with that, it was critical. And it was really hard. It's really hard to hear, you're presenting in a meeting and then your mentor or your boss give you feedback and say, well, I would have done this differently, or don't say that. And that, but that for me really changed and improved who I am as a wealth advisor, was being able to hear that. And then equally as important for me is like being able to hear that criticism about myself as a wealth advisor and then leave it at the office and not bring it home with me. And I think that was really, really important. I had early on in my career clients say to me, can I talk to your boss, right? Like, is there some sort of older man that can confirm these recommendations that you're making for me? And just being confident and trusting in myself, and always being authentic and transparent. So if I'm making a recommendation to a client and I'm invested in the same investment, making sure that they know that about me. Being patient, I think, I have always taken kind of the slow and steady approach to where I am today. And being comfortable and saying, I don't know, has been kind of life altering for me. I don't need to have all the answers today, or I thought, at 24 years old, I need to be able to answer every question this client's going to throw at me. In this meeting today, I have a totally different approach today. But it takes time, and being patient with yourself and celebrating all of the wins, even the small ones, I think is really important.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I love that your hurdles, not so much maybe somebody else's that, you had to deal with. Shana, hurdles or obstacles you had to face with to, being the CEO of and founder of your firm.
Yeah, so I have grown up in a household where my dad was a police officer and my mom was an inner city school teacher, and my mom is also an immigrant. She came here from Ireland when she was like 10. And so they're very tough. There was a feature piece done on me called Tough Minded years ago, and that's a great description of me. I have a perpetual chip on my shoulder because I have been underestimated all the time forever. As long as I can remember, people just think I'm dumb as a rock because I modeled for a really long time. And so she can't possibly have a brain. So I've been underestimated my entire life in everything I've ever done. And so I have this perpetual chip on my shoulder, which is a very good asset to have, in that it makes me kind of bold and push through anything, because it's like, you can't tell me that, I'll prove to you. But it also makes me kind of difficult in that I'm overly assertive and I do not fear conflict at all. So if Sometimes I have had to learn over the years. Bridget said she's been in the industry since a young age. I got in the industry at 22. I had to learn at a young age the idea of how to play politics. My parents both worked in fields where they had pensions and unions, so they could be like that. And my mom in particular is feisty, as my dad likes to call her. She doesn't take anything from anyone, and she has absolutely no problem with conflict. And so I have a lot of that in her, which, you know, has been great for me and being able to handle the alpha males in the industry. I don't often get treated like I'm below them, because they know really quickly that, like, that's not going to fly. But at the same time, it can make me difficult to work with sometimes, because I'm not particularly one of those people that will just sit down and shut up. So that's been good in many ways in my career, but sometimes not good. And that's largely what brought me to start my own firm, because I would see things being done incorrectly and speak up. And I would be told, like, we don't really care what you think. And ultimately, I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to do it myself, since no one really wants to listen to me. But those hurdles have faced me the entire time. To this day, I'm on TV all the time. I speak 20 to 25 conferences. I do 3 to 4 media appearances a week, and 5, 6 podcasts a month. The amount of times I get called a bimbo and asked for my OnlyFans would blow your mind. And now I've just decided I'm going to lean into that, because if you want to think I'm an idiot, that's fine. Whether or not I try to pretend that I wasn't a model or whatever is not going to make any difference. And it's actually helped me a lot to gain the confidence to move forward and, quite frankly, help other women embrace their power and realize that, like, we all have to go through this. The best way to push forward and make a path so that the next generation doesn't have to go through it is to work together to do it.
Shana, it's crazy that you still have to go through that. And it sucks, terrible that you do, and you still are willing to put yourself out there and, be very public, with your interviews and stuff like that, where then you do get more guys and maybe even more women, coming at you and saying just horrible things like that. So more kudos.
The women are just as bad as the men. It's mind blowing.
It's terrible, and having your chip on the shoulder is very powerful. Real quickly, I remember going back. I was in college. I went back to my alma high school to watch, I don't know, basketball game. I ran into a teacher, and the teacher, she goes, "Well, what are you doing these days, Ryan?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm, my first year at college." And she looked at me. She's like, "You went to college?" Like, shocked that I went to college. And I didn't say I was doing very well in college, but it's just that chip on your shoulder that I still remember today. Dana.
No one is more surprised that I'm in finance than my high school algebra teacher, because I had to take algebra 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. Dana, any obstacles or hurdles you had along the way?
Yeah, look, and I'm just going to start by saying, no matter how often and how pervasive it is, I'm always astonished by how just brutal people are to each other on social media. It's in person, yes, but even people get empowered. They feel empowered because they're more anonymous, and it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think in terms of obstacles, I think we're probably going to have kind of similar stories on this. Because I don't, just to not be repetitive, I'll throw a somewhat different take. I think, some of how I have handled obstacles like that over the years is just, and I know the women on here have done the same, I'm sure, is know my stuff really well before I get in the room. Yep. And just when you kind of, just know the facts and can kind of bowl over. And the interesting thing I've found is a lot of people are not doing the work. And that is, it doesn't, if you go in, it's funny, we had at our last conference, we had Tom Brady speak, which was really cool. Everybody, very exciting for everybody. I thought he had a fantastic message. I didn't know this because I don't know the history of Tom Brady, be perfectly frank with you, but he got on stage and he talked about like, yeah, I wasn't, amazingly talented to start, he wasn't even like the first pick or any of that stuff. It's just, I worked harder than everybody else. I got in there, I knew my stuff so well. I watched the videos of the other team, and it's kind of it's an unlock that I think is very underappreciated, that if you are willing to go the extra miles, and again, I know I'm looking at women who are doing that. It's just amazing. You get in there and there's no fight at that point because they don't have the facts, right? So they may disagree. And I will say the other side of that coin is you could lose people that way too, right? Because they could feel bowled over, like I can't engage, I can't participate. I think the other side of that is to both be very knowledgeable, but also to make sure you're really reading the person across from you and you're being collaborative, and you're not coming across as somebody who's trying to beat them with the facts, but more that, hey, I know my facts, but let's talk about what you're concerned with. And that served me well. And the last thing I'll say on this topic is, for all the just kind of viciousness sometimes in the world, I do think there are a lot of people who have helped me along the way, and who've taken an interest, who have mentored, and in turn I see it, and we may even talk about this, but I think the passing along to the next team is exactly what you need to do, right? Like that's the other way people get past these things is, they talk to somebody who had to face it. I mean, small tangent, I worked for a woman for years who was like one of the earliest women on Wall Street. I mean, can you imagine? Like, talk about just, but she, she reminds me of Shana a little, like she just wasn't taking any, and she just plowed through. And so, having a mentor, finding people who are going to take an interest in you and turning around and paying that back to the next group, I think is another important way to deal with that.
Fantastic, Dana. That's a great segue, because I wanted to ask, hey, number one, I think I kind of got Bridget's mentor, her mom, Dana, but also, are there tips? Can you provide real quickly a tip, each one of you, for the younger generation of women who maybe want to get in the industry, but just think there's just too many hurdles, it's male dominated, and any tips? Let's start with you, Shana.
Well, the first thing they should know is that in the entry-level positions in finance, it's actually not male dominated. It's more like 50-50. It's as you move through the career path that it starts to become male dominated. So in the more senior positions, and there's a variety of reasons for that. One of them I found is that it is a little bit of a chauvinist and alpha male kind of environment, and not everybody's cut out for that. But the one thing I have found has been really helpful, especially with the women that I mentor, is providing them an outlet to vent the frustrations they have with those types of environments, and then provide them with some guidance and how to push through, and also some honesty. I'm not afraid to tell women that, like, I deal with that to this day, and I've been in the industry for 25 years. And so, the key is that you can't let it discourage you, because the only way we change anything is to push through it and blaze that trail so that the next generation doesn't have to. And it's not like a singular generational change. This takes time, and more people have to be doing it for it really to like take hold. And I think we're getting there. So my advice to young women is finding a mentor, and it doesn't have to be a female mentor. It can be a male mentor as well. And most of my early mentors were male. So my first real mentor in the business was Tom Allen, who's a portfolio manager at Fidelity Investments. And he really just, he spoke at an event once, and I asked him 1,000 questions afterwards. And he was like, do you want to grab coffee sometime? You have a lot of questions and I don't have the time. And that's how he became my mentor. And then through the years, I've had other mentors, but the first female mentor I had was Sue Thompson. And she just took an interest to me immediately, because we connect on things beyond just finance. Like, if you've ever watched Sue's Instagram, she's big into fashion and makeup and jewelry, and she always looks like she just walked off like a runway. And so we related on that immediately, and she's a powerhouse, but she also dealt with almost identical things that I have over her career. So it really provided me a valuable outlet to figure out how she got to where she was. I mean, she was one of consistently Barron's 50 most powerful
Mhm.
woman in the industry. So, you know, having her really helps, but your mentors will change over the years. But the first thing is, don't be afraid to go looking for one. You'll be surprised how many people are willing to mentor you, but you got to go into it with the thought process that you're not asking them for anything more than just advice. Most people come to a mentor thinking, I can get a job or they can connect me with people. And if you go in with that mindset, you're going in with what can you give me and not what can I get from you and then give back. And so I think that that's the number one thing that I would suggest, but go looking for a mentor and find people that are doing the things that you want to do.
Mhm. Shana, I love that. That's fantastic advice. You know, you can't just be asking for something always in return. Bridget, real quickly, any tips that you have for the younger women that
I
might want
echo
to be
what Shana
financial
said.
advisors?
Yes, I echo what Shana said. I think, you know, I mentor a lot of women and they come to me directly and say, I want a mentor. And they put time on my calendar, and you really have to be your best kind of advocate in this industry, right? You've got to ask for what you want. And I've always been really good at that. Like Dana said, I know my stuff. And when I feel like it's time for me to be promoted or given more responsibility, I always go and ask. I am my best advocate. And that takes, you know, kind of years to develop
Mhm.
the confidence to do that, but working with a mentor can help you kind of set short, medium, long-term goals for yourself, and then, you know, feel confident in going to your employer, maybe it's your next employer, and asking for what you know that you deserve. I think are skills that are hugely important as a female in this industry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much, Shana, Bridget, and Dana, for coming on the show. You guys, Shana, you said, you know, continue be a trailblazer. Well, you got the three of you are doing great things in this industry that continue all those steps that women before you started. So kudos to all three of you. Keep it up. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Really, it was an honor to have you on. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Zephyr's Adjusted for Risk podcast. You can watch all of our other podcasts on the Zephyr YouTube channel. And please give us a follow on Zephyr LinkedIn page and subscribe to the Zephyr YouTube channel to learn more about our insights and research. Thank you and have a great rest of your week.